All right, folks, welcome back to Not Funny Guys Presents Go Team Venture, and we are picking up with episode 3. And here we are at episodes 5 and 6. And I will say this, I've noticed something about Netflix. Before we jump into things, Netflix has some of these episodes out of order. So you may find that if you're looking at this is episode 6. This is, in fact, episode 5. And this one casts a lot of foreshadowing. This is where we get some of the creepy imagery. So getting into episode 5, which is Eneny, Meeny, Miney, Magic. Watch this over on YouTube, listen to our podcast version, whichever one you're coming at us with. But we find ourselves with the boys staying up late. In fact, the boys weirdly playing with a Ouija board. And of course, Hank is dressed as Spider-Man pajamas and Dean is dressed in Aquaman pajamas, while Brock and the doctor are having weird nightmares. The doctor is actually thinking about some stuff in utero, foreshadowing again. And we have Brock dreaming about a football player dead, also foreshadowing. We finally get some of these. These will be resolved this season. So if you haven't watched ahead, please do so. But like I said, remember that apparently Netflix has some of this stuff all out of order. And of course, all of this is interrupted by a man who looks strangely like either Dracula or Doctor Strange from the Marvel Universe. Turns out this is Dr. Orpheus, who we will meet. He apparently has was destroyed or broke Helper while investigating this sort of strange device in the lab, which we will later find that Dr. Venture calls the Joy Can. But then we find the boys waking up Rusty. Hank goes to Brock, who almost chokes him while waking up from his nightmare, and then they proceed to get together and go work on Helper, while Rusty takes Dean to go meet Dr. Orpheus, who is now apparently a tenant in one of the old research labs. And so while they're having long conversations about this and what is Dr. Orpheus's job. He's a necromancer, not necrophile, all kinds of funny, weird stuff. But we also meet his daughter, Triana, who Dean instantly falls in love with. Of course, while they're while they're working on Helper, Dean gets drawn towards this real weird machine, which Brock then jumps in instead, and he ends up in what appears to be some sort of strange messed up fantasy where he is in a complex fantasy of where he wants Molotov cocktails. He's also killing ninjas, panda bears on motorcycles, all kinds of crazy stuff. So you get a real interesting analytical view deep inside to the mind of Brock Samson, where sex and violence are very strangely intermixed. Of course, we come to find out that this invention is what Dr. Orpheus has had such a problem with. And we also come to find out that apparently Dr. Venture is taking some rather unorthodox side steps in his creation process. Or apparently we learned that the machine is powered by a orphan child. The dead orphan kid is powering this quote-unquote Joy Can. And eventually Dean, Hank, and Brock are all trapped inside. Dean and Hank try to go rescue Brock, and they literally are all stuck inside this thing. And it's through the most ridiculous game of Marco Polo, played by Dr. Orpheus, that they manage to find their way out. It's a sublime episode. Very fun. Lots of fun details, mainly between Dr. Orpheus and getting to meet him, sort of his eccentric character. Which I love Dr. O. He's one of my favorites, a favorite little cast of characters here. So he's a fun one. So like I said, first time we meet Dr. Byron Orpheus. We also learned that his wife left him for a young necromancer. He's like a single dad with his daughter. She goes to school. Hank and Dean don't. Of course, we learn about their beds where they get their schooling. This is a leftover device from their father's childhood. Like I said, we get insights into Brock's past, which will get paid off later in the season. And then we get really weirdly into the psychosomatic elements of Brock's brain that I don't think any of us really needed. But I think what's funny is when Dean has his brief fantasy. Or is it Hank? I don't remember. I think it's Hank. Hank has a brief fantasy moment inside the box. And what he fantasizes about is having a normal life. Because these kids don't have normal lives. So, yeah. All right. So, like, subscribe. And now, on to the next episode. All right, so now we are on to episode 6, Ghosts of the Sargasso. Also one of my favorite episodes. This originally aired September 11th, 2004. It is written by the both creators, Jackson Pollock and Doc Hammer. And it begins somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle in 1969. In the past, we see some members of the older Team Venture. It's a failed test pilot who goes by the name of Major Tom. The pilot is a blatant knock on David Bowie's song Space Odyssey. Okay? It's one of the things I love. In fact, they literally cite lines from the song. So it's absolutely hilarious. But it's a failed test pilot situation that he's lost. So we cut to the present. We find the X2, which is the boat version, with Rusty planning to go down and discover this lost ship that his father never tried to recover with his metasonic locator that he's created. He's going to go down and recover this lost experimental craft. And he's going to go lower himself down for a night dive. While Rusty dives into the sea, the boat itself is sort of attacked by a ghost ship, or they encounter a ghost ship of basically, not really ghosts and pirates, but pirates, fake ones, who've been trapped in the Sargasso Sea. They've been trapped in the Bermuda Triangle with these, and so they literally just hijack ships that pass through and to take the stuff they need. So, fun times. Eventually, Hank is the only one they don't capture. They capture Brock, and they capture Dean and the pirate captain, who we'll see more of. He will become a recurring character. Hank is basically at one point trying to save them by taking advice from Brock about how to kill them. Rusty, though, is stuck deep down in this little thing, and he's literally doing these little tape recordings of his, documenting his mission. And eventually gets caught in a giant clam, and his thing starts to leak. So he's on the brink of death when he eventually does find the ship, and accidentally, with his metasonic locator, awakens a real ghost of Major Tom. Brock, of course, eventually escapes the pirate ship and starts cracking skulls. And then everything is stopped by the arrival of this real ghost, which is the ghost/ghoul of Major Tom. It has a very Scooby-Doo quality to this episode. Not an uncommon thing for them to have in a lot of their episodes. But this is actual real ghoul. And the only way they managed to stop him is by calling his wife. And this was all part of a line in the song with the Action Man. And the Action Man is a former teammate who has married his widow. And his widow reminds him that he's dead. And the pirates, of course, demand or ask for a ride out at the end as well. But I absolutely love, and one of my favorite parts of this whole episode is just the opening. Because if you know Space Odyssey by David Bowie, and even Action Man says Ashes to Ashes, which is the follow-up song, there's a whole breakdown of the lines of this, where there is an entire sort of built around idea that, the lyrics of the song, and I'm not going to sing them because I don't want to get owned by them for this one, but it's one of my all-time favorites. It's just amazingly fascinating, and it's full of interesting things, how Rusty cannot live up to his father, and he desperately wants to, which is all part of that kind of complex with Rusty, is that his dad really messed him up. And so he's trying to outdo him here in this situation. And then, of course, when the pirates come aboard, they're basically playing the whole Scooby-Doo thing where they're pretending to be real pirates when they're not. And then we later get a real ghoul ghost. And we see insights into some of the old Team Venture, who we'll see more of in this season. The old people who basically, it's the idea that the first Team Venture back in the day were real serious heroes. And now we've got goofballs and morons. So, just a fun one. But like I said, the David Bowie references begin to pick up. And of course, this will become a theme of some sorts as we move forward into the stories that come afterwards. But yeah, so again, fun episode. If you know your David Bowie songs or anything, if you're a fan of David Bowie, you really get a fun little treat at the beginning there that I personally love a lot of. Okay. All right. So that's all I'm going to say about this episode. Fun episode. Great one. Watch it on Netflix. Like I said, check the order. They have been putting them. I don't know why they do this. Weird order, but we will be back on Monday, and we will be talking about Ice Station Impossible, and Midlife Chrysalis, as we continue our look into our rewatch of the Team Venture. So, Venture Brothers, check it out. Like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to the podcast, share with friends, people who like Venture Brothers. And I will see you guys on Monday. Say not funny guys again.
Not funny guys again.
No, can you say not funny guys?